So I have a friend who is a really great guy. He's really kind and thoughtful, and when he's in a relationship, he always wants the best for the other person. But there's one thing that he's missing, and I see this a lot with other people in relationships too, as they don't know how to set healthy boundaries. Setting boundaries in a relationship solves the mess of unclear expectations, and it stops resentment seeping into the relationship. It's the foundation of respect, and it puts an end to the unnecessary conflicts that relationships often get caught up into, and also gives you the emotional space that you're always craving. So in this video, I'll be explaining what boundaries are, why they are so important to your relationship, and the steps you need to take to set them. So boundaries are like lines in the sand that define your emotional and physical and mental turf. They're not just there to keep nosy neighbors out, but they're actually all about preserving your identity and your sanity. Now, in relationships, boundaries are more like rules of engagement. They spell out very clearly to both you and your partner what's cool and what's off limits. And what this does is it helps shape the unique identity that both you and your partner have as individuals and together as a dynamic duo in the relationship. So on the surface, the reason why boundaries are important is it establishes to the world who you are and how people need to act in order to have a relationship with you. But if we think about it a little bit deeper, I think it really comes down to 4 key reasons. So the first is around respect. The boundaries aren't meant to be polite. How are they really meant to function as a no trespassing sign to the people in the world around you? Now, they exist to make sure not just that you are safe and content, but that your individuality and your personal space is protected. Now, this isn't just about how you want to be treated, but it's more of a bold declaration to you, your partner, and anyone else involved in the relationship, how people are allowed to step into your world. The second is around communication. So when you spell out your boundaries, the things that you truly are and the things that you truly aren't, they set up the ground rules for how your relationship needs to play out in order to be a success. They open the lines of communication between you and your partner and ensure that you are both on the same page, or conversely, they identify very clearly when you aren't on the same page. The third is preventing resentment. So resentment is a weed that really grows where misunderstandings take root. Boundaries in this metaphor are like gardeners who keep weeds in check and nip resentment in the bud before they cause issues in your relationship. They do this by very clearly communicating what your expectations are and making it clear to your partner when there is a violation of them. The fourth is emotional health. So emotional boundaries are like a moat and drawbridge that defend your inner world from outside pressures. This fortress allows you to own your feelings and your identity and have them respected and not be overwhelmed by external forces. By setting boundaries, you're saying this is my emotional kingdom and I guard it fiercely. So in terms of applying boundaries, there's actually just 3 key steps. The first is to know yourself. Look, if you don't know yourself and know your own boundaries, how on earth is anyone else going to know them? You need to get real with yourself. You need to figure out where your limits are, what sets your soul on fire, and where your comfort zone is actually hiding. This is all around owning your own turf and being really crystal clear about it. When it comes to drawing a line in the sand, you need to be the one holding the stick. You need to take time, look within, and work out what you want in your life, your relationship, and what behaviors in a partner you are willing and are not willing to accept. The second step is communicating openly and honestly with your partner. So if you aren't laying out your boundaries like a very open book, then you're setting the stage for confusion and chaos in your relationship. You need to be real, be honest, and say it like it is. These lines in the sand need to be known, and you need to do it without beating around the bush or sugarcoating what they actually are. If you aren't clear with how you want to be treated or what you won't stand for, how on earth is your partner going to know? The third step is to have flexibility in your boundaries. So life is a lot like a roller coaster. There's ups and downs and twists and turns and loop-de-loops, so you need to learn to get comfortable with change. Your boundaries, they aren't set in stone. They are like a GPS that needs to recalculate when you go on a different route. You need to embrace the fact that you're going to evolve, that you're going to change and grow and face different challenges in your life and in your relationships. And what this means is that your boundaries are likely going to shift as well. But this isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're smart enough to know that life doesn't come with a manual. So you need to get flexible and learn to roll with the punches when it comes to setting and maintaining your boundaries. So naturally, setting boundaries for a lot of you is going to be a big step in your relationship. And this means that you are going to come up against a couple of challenges. There are 3 that I think are most common. The first is around guilt. So a lot of people do experience guilt when they're setting boundaries. They feel like they're imposing their will on the other person in the relationship. You need to realize that you are not some type of emotionless robot, that you're a human being that needs to draw the line when it comes to what is acceptable and what is not in their relationship and how they are willing to be treated. Boundaries are your ticket to sanity. They are not an act of selfishness. You need to think about it when you're setting your boundaries that you're saying to the world, hey, I'm not a doormat. I deserve to be treated a certain way and I sure as hell won't apologize for it. The next is fear of conflicts. A fear of conflict in your relationship, unfortunately, is not going to get you anywhere other than months or potentially years of a relationship that fundamentally doesn't work, makes you miserable, and leaving you unsatisfied. But guess what? Boundaries are actually the secret weapon against this type of mess. Boundaries are like a GPS that direct the conversation away from this type of torment by setting clear expectations on behaviors that you are willing and not willing to accept up front on day 1 of the relationship. They are the referee that keeps the relationship civil. You need to trust me, the discomfort you have on setting the boundaries up front is a drop in the ocean compared to the unresolved conflict that will come up later if you don't do this step. The third one is people pleasing. So look, I get it. Being the yes man or yes woman in the relationship can make you feel noble. But when you consistently put others before yourself, you're not noble, you're making yourself a sidekick in your own story. You need to flip the script and use the people-pleasing tool to boost your own self-respect. Make yourself the people that you're trying to please. You need to start treating yourself like the lead and not the understudy who's waiting in the wings. Your thoughts, your needs, your wants, they deserve to be in the spotlight and not hidden in the shadows. So there you go, guys. We've gone through what boundaries are, why they are so important to set in your relationship, and the steps that you need to take to actually do it. Now, if you've made it all this way, why don't you hit like and subscribe? And if you have any thoughts, leave them in the comments below. Now, if you want to see a video on why it's always important to say less than necessary, please click here.